Whenever I gaze at the moon in the sky, I think of dear Mehera with the past in her eyes, reliving the days she spent by the side of Baba, her love and her life. Theirs was never a worldly romance, not what one might assume at a glance, but pure and divine as an angel dance between hearts entwined and entranced. She was the moon sharing his light. She lit up the path in the dark of the night. She was the chosen beloved one. She was the wondrous moon, reflecting a glorious sun. Together they made the most beautiful sight. When he looked at her, he shone ever more bright. The sun lit the day and the moon lit the night, as she reflected his light. She was the heart of his infinite plan. She wore the rings on her beautiful hand. The ocean of love spilled over the dam, so roses could bloom in the sand. She was the moon sharing his light. She lit up the path in the dark and night. She was the chosen beloved one. She was the wondrous moon, reflecting a glorious sun. Tonight there will be another full moon. Tomorrow her roses will be in full bloom. The song of their love is a heavenly tune, a gift, a blessing, a boon. To be his beloved, her God-given role, the sweetest love story that's ever been told. To please her beloved, only goal of the one with the moon in her soul. She was the moon sharing his light. She lit up the path
Mirror, in what manner do you love him? That your hold on to him is so strong. We who have just come to know him, it is for this love that we long. For of all of his lovers in creation, it seems that he's closest to you. So Mehera, won't you tell us how you love him, so that we might love him that way too. Well, he came as if an angel sent from heaven, but we found it rather odd to learn that this angel sent from heaven himself had turned out to be God. And a simple heart breaks when one thinks of mistakes made in a moment so weak. And so faced with this task, we now come to ask help towards this goal that we seek. So tell us, Mehera, in what manner do you love him? And what makes your love so pure? That there is no hardship or suffering for him that you would not endure. We who have never been with him still long for a love so true. So Mehera, won't you tell us how you love him, so that we might love him that way too. Well, there's a mist on the field in the morning, but the sun comes to burn it all off. Just as the mist of our clouded imaginations is removed by the warmth of his love. And we see all around his love shining down direct from the heavens above. And we grow close, but yet as close as we get, we never can get close enough. So tell us, Mehera, in what manner do you love him? Though really, it's not hard to tell, for we see it when you look at his picture. Your eyes seem to show us so well. And though it might be rude of us asking, really what else could we do? For Mehera, if we knew how you love him, then we might love him that way too.
Jai Baba. Special thanks again to Cindy and Jamie for the beautiful music and songs about our beloved Mehera. All right, I'd like to ask Karen, are you ready for? All right, thank you. Jai Baba.
Okay, can you all hear me? Jai Baba, can you see Mehera's picture?
Yes.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay, so Mehera Jahangir Irani was born on January 7th, 1907. She was Meher Baba's closest disciple, and Meher Baba said she was the purest soul in the universe and that she loved him as he ought to be loved. Her parents were Jahangir and Daulat Mai Irani. There was actually a son that died quite young. Her sister Paroja, later named Franny, was 5 years older. Her father held a high post as senior forest officer in the Indian Forestry Service. He was then transferred to Gujarat. As a child, Mehera rode horses, camels, and elephants. She loved the horses. At age 40, her father fell from a horse and hurt his ear. The ear later became septic and he died. The mother had relatives in Pune and moved the family there. Her mother heard of Babajan from her sister Franny and would sit by Babajan every evening. Mehera at age 10 or 11 saw Babajan with her girlfriend. They left school and hurried back. It was like lunchtime. And she asked Babajan for a horse. Babajan said, yes, he will be very beautiful. You will get a horse and all the world will see him and love him. Mehera met Meher Baba for the first time on October 15th, 1922. She was 14 and she was in Sikori at Upasni Maharaj's ashram during a visit there with her mother. They came to see Upasni, but she saw Merwanji first. They saw him 4 times on the first day at Sikori. When Mehera's sister was being married, she was at Sikori at that time, and Mehera's ankle swelled up. So Upasni said not to travel to the wedding. And that turned out to be auspicious because a family had come to the wedding with their son and many engagement gifts from Mehera. Baba's mother was there, Mehera's mother was there, Baba's aunt, and there were others, and they all thought it would be a very nice match for Mehera. And Baba's mother and Mehera's mother thought this would give her the opportunity to follow her spiritual pursuits. But then Baba said, well, now let's ask Mehera what she would like. And when Mehera was asked, she said, I don't want to marry at all. One day a woman came to Upasni with a gold ring. Maharaj gave it to Mehera and told her to keep it. It fit her finger perfectly. I'll get back to that a little bit later. In mid-May 1924, Mehera and her mother were the very first women to stay in the bathing rooms at Meherabad and to stay with him for good. They left a life of a large home with servants for a simple life with Meher Baba. It was the first time they heard Baba sing, and they were enchanted. They traveled with Baba to Quetta, Karachi, and then back to Bombay and stayed with Khorshid's family. One day, Khorshid and Mehera decided to cook something for Baba. They really didn't know how to cook much at that time, but they thought of a dessert, and they knew it slightly. Its name was Doodh Pak Puri. Sure, I'm saying it wrong, but whatever. They made it very mild. He called them back and asked if they thought he was an invalid. And then he reconsidered and taught them how to make potato patties. So that was the very beginning of her cooking for Meher Baba. Towards the end of 1924, Baba permitted them to move to the post office at Meherabad. Khorshid said we should stop using pillows because in the spiritual life, we must do things like that. But when they came, Baba saw their bedding and said, "Where are your pillows?" And so pillows were immediately sent for. They stayed there until 1926, and Mehera said they loved those days. Baba was very fond of music. He had a very beautiful and a very sweet voice. One morning, Baba asked Mehera if she knew any English songs. "Don't you remember any songs you sang at school?" he asked. She remembered Swani. She taught it to Baba. The next morning, they heard Baba loudly singing Swani beautifully. Baba told them this was the first English song he had sung. Mehera was very happy that he had learned it from her. Back to the ring that Upasani had given her. One day, Baba said whoever had a gold ring should give it to Baba, and that Baba would give another gold ring in return. Mehera had a very difficult time taking that ring off her finger, but she was successful. Baba stood in front of his photo and said, "Take this ring and keep it." So she felt Baba wanted to be the one to give her that ring, and he put it on her finger. This was the ring Maharaj had given her. Then he put another ring that someone had given him on the same finger. It was a very beautiful ring with Baba's name inscribed on it, and he told her, "Wear it always," which she did. Once while in the car with Baba, Naja quietly reached out and touched his sadra very lightly. Then Khorshid did the same thing. She thought, if they can touch Baba's sadra, why shouldn't I? So she reached out and touched Baba's sadra. She had hardly touched it when immediately Baba turned around and demanded, "Who touched my sadra?" "Why did you do that?" he asked. "Are you in the habit of touching men's clothes?" "No, Baba," she replied. "I've never done it before. This is the very first time." Baba told her on July 9th, 1925, "From tomorrow, I will observe silence. You are to stay cheerful and happy, take care of your health, and obey my orders." After observing silence, Baba wrote down, "From the first time I saw you, I recognized you as my Radha." And he told her some other things too, but that's what she's told us. Christmas 1926, they returned to Meherabad for the second grade stay at Meherabad. He opened the Hazrat Babajan High School. In May 27, the boarding school for boys was open, Mehera Ashram. In March 28, Baba divided the Mehera Ashram, and one section was called the Prem Ashram. Since Baba was with the boys, the women missed him tremendously, and they wanted to make a garland, but they had no flowers. So Valu, who lived in Arangown and helped them, walked to a dry creek in the evening, and the next morning brought them pink and white single oleander flowers. They made a garland for Baba. With leftover flowers, they made a wrist garland and then an even larger wrist garland. In mid-1928 in Toka, they decided to make a cradle for Baba during Lord Krishna's birthday and be able to rock him in the cradle, but then the cradle tore. Fortunately, it was low to the ground and Baba was not hurt. In September 31, Baba began his travels to the West. He made 10 trips to the West between 1931 and 1937. The women would put on plays for Baba. Early in 1933, Western women began coming to India and stayed in the old water tank. By Baba's order, Mehera was not to see any man, hear a man's voice, hear a woman mention a man's name, nor was any man able to see her. Sunamasi or Kaku kept watch. In Mysore, Mehera was guarded with dark glasses with brown paper inside. She was not to read. Labels had paper covering their names. The only one who could touch Mehera for fitting clothes was Mani. Even though she was secluded, Mehera had no privacy. Someone was always with her. And Baba had Mani keep a diary of Mehera's every minute for Baba until his return. Around 1935, Mehera would begin to trim his fingernails, braid his hair, and trim his mustache. The first time she learned to trim his mustache, one side was longer than the other side. So she shortened that side. And then the other side was shorter than that side. And Baba asked if they thought he was Charlie Chaplin. So they stopped. But then she learned to do it correctly. And of course, we know she saved his hair, fingernails, and mustache trimmings, which many of us were given. You know, they had a number of animals, and she wrote this book, Baba Loved Us Too. Stories of Mehera. Oh, Baba Loved Us Too. Stories of Mehera Baba and His Pets by Mehera Irani. So here are some of the bird stories from that time. One day, Baba gave Mehera, Mani, and Khorshid each a little bald bird. They were hungry, so they fed them. They were so hungry, they ate and ate and ate. Because they ate so much, Baba said, we must take them on a walk. So they used their fingers and they pushed the birds around so they could digest their worms. One day, Rustam gave Baba a Nepalese myna. Mehera taught the myna to say Baba Darling. The myna also learned to say Baba Darling from the other women with their voices. And the Western women were coming, so they were quite excited to have the Western women hear the myna bird say Baba Darling. But he got pneumonia. And the last word of that myna bird was Baba. The last bird story is they had salinkis in a very big cage. One day, Khorshid who took care of the birds, had a cut on her finger. So Baba said Mehera and Mani should take care of the cage. They brought the cage outside. They cleaned it thoroughly. They gave lettuce and other food to the birds. They took perfect care, and they were very pleased with what they had done. But then they were called and told that the salinkis were up on the roof. And they thought, no, those must just be the regular wild birds outside. But no, they had done such a great job, but they forgot to close the cage. So those birds were freed, and Baba was fine with it. At the end of July 1937, Baba brought Mehera and the other Eastern women to France, but they remained cloistered. In early December 1938, they set off on the Blue Bus tours. They were no longer cloistered and able to sightsee. Mehera said it was so hot in some places, they would wash their clothes, bathe, and then they would put on the clothes they had just washed. But in other places, it was also very cold. On the fourth Blue Bus tour in Ajmer, Kitty learned of a European woman who was returning to England and was selling her piano. Kitty asked Baba if they could purchase the piano as she had been a music teacher. Baba agreed, and it was sent to their room at Meherabad. Back at Meherabad, Kitty gave Mehera lessons every 4 days on the piano. And she ended up playing a nice song for Baba, and Baba was very pleased with her piano playing. On the fifth Blue Bus tour, they came to a beautiful beach. Mani and Katie told Baba they would love to learn to swim. Baba said, if Mehera says yes, if she wants to learn to swim, then you can too. So Katie and Mani said, please, please, say yes, say yes. And so Mehera said, yes, Baba, it would be nice. Margaret had them practice on pillows. A rain billow made a pair of slacks because she thought that would be more appropriate for Mehera to wear. It ended up that it pulled her down into the water. They swam well on their pillows, but sank in the water. Baba came to see them swim. He said, you all do 10 strokes each, and then after that, no more swimming. Mehera had to be pulled out, but she did her 10 strokes and passed. Katie and Mani needed more time and more practice. And if I remember correctly, Margaret said it was so easy to teach Mehera because she was so unfocused on pleasing Baba. In Karwar in 1944, they had more swim lessons. Mehera did fine. In Aurangabad, the same year, Baba had a swimming pool cleaned for them, refilled with water so they could swim again. Margaret had them practice strokes, but in a few days, frogs arrived in the pool. So they had to skim everything off of the water, and they swam. And when they left, they noticed that the frogs returned to the pool. In April 1944, Mehera, Mani, Mehru, and Margaret came to stay at Meherazad for the very first time. Mehera loved the trees. At Meherazad, Baba told her to start a garden. Baba took them for walks and they gathered pretty rocks, which became the little flower beds. In 1948, the mason used them for the foundation of their house. Later, when they were living at Meherazad and the garden was established, Baba admired it and told her how beautiful the colors of the flower were. Baba, I said, it's very difficult to garden here. We don't have good soil and there's hardly any water. That's why I appreciate it, Baba replied, because you put so much work into it and you do it with love. I appreciate that, and that is why I love it. That pleases me. Later, Baba asked her how she would like the house, which was being reconstructed and rebuilt. And they stayed during this time at Goher's family's house in Ahmednagar. Baba told Mehera to suggest and tell them alterations and additions. The upper floor was added with an outside staircase. There was an effort to keep cooler breezes inside the house. And during their many travels, Mehera gathered plants from many different regions in India for the Meherazad garden. They traveled in 45 to Hyderabad, where there was a medium-sized pool. Baba had the secluded swimming pool cleaned again and filled with water. They continued with their swimming training, and this time Margaret taught them to dive, and they learned more strokes. Mani and Kitty did not care for diving. They went to the cinema, and on their travels, they rode horses and kept quite active. In mid-August 1949, Baba had the women in the East Room to discuss the new life. On October 16, 1949, Mehera, Mani, Mehru, and Goher began the new life. Of the new life, Mehera said, it was a bit uncomfortable, but we were quite happy about it because Baba was with us, and that was the most important thing to us. That was just what we wanted. We didn't mind going through all the difficulties, but we didn't take them to heart. We felt happy going through it for Baba, being with Baba, walking with Baba. In 1952, these 4 women left India and returned, but during that time, they stayed at the guest house at the Mehera Center. Traveling across country, the accident occurred in Prague. Mehera was unconscious for some time. When an ambulance arrived with a stretcher, Baba would not let them help him. He pointed to Mehera and gestured, "Help her first." She said, even though Baba was in very great pain and in need of help himself, he thought of another at that time. How beautiful he was with his love, to think of another person at such a time when he himself needed help. Baba sent her a lovely note, which Goher read to her. She said, even though I could not hear it properly, later I read it again. Then there was the second accident in 1956. Baba was in considerable pain. By 1957, the women relocated to Meherazad permanently. The last 12 years of his life involved tremendous physical suffering caused by his injuries. It was perhaps the most intimate time for Mehera, who cared for him so tenderly day by day, trying to ease his pain and anticipate his needs. The women accompanied Baba to Guru Prasad each year, but they were really behind the scenes there. In January 31st, 1968, Baba had Mehera greet the men mandali. He told her, "Don't be nervous. I will be beside you holding your hand." Mehera was permitted by Meher Baba to come out of her seclusion and meet some of the men mandali from a distance. On the porch at Meherazad, she simply folded her hands to them out of respect to their love for Baba and saluted them with Jai Baba. On January 31st, 1969, Baba had Mani tell Mehera, "Be brave." She said, "I remember that, and it gave me courage." We had the exceptional opportunity to be with Mehera and to witness her devotion to him after that time. Although Mehera was born in January, from 1968, her birthday had been celebrated on December 22nd, as it was in 1968, in accordance with the Zoroastrian calendar, being the last year it was celebrated in Meher Baba's physical presence. Mehera wrote, "Baba has walked through Meherazad garden so often. He loved bright colors and he always admired flowers and beautiful plants. So beautiful was his love for everything, for flowers and animals and birds. I remember that in January 1969, Baba asked me to tell him the names of all the kinds of birds that came to our Meherazad garden. Baba loved everyone and everything, and he loved his lovers very dearly. That is why they come to him. Baba said that his love brings his lovers to him. So his lovers are very, very fortunate because their love for Baba shows how much Baba loves them. To God, only love is important. God only wants love." Those who were fortunate to spend time in Mehera's presence on the porch at Meherazad were struck by her extraordinary beauty and her unique presence, and by her sustained one-pointed focus on Meher Baba. She loved recounting Baba's stories, often giggling with joy over particularly happy memories. Mehera took delight in the simple things in life, and over time seemed able to transcend her loss through sharing her love for Baba with his lovers for his sake. Baba's sister Mani expresses most perfectly what it was to encounter Mehera at that time. The absolutely clear mirror of Mehera's pure, immaculate heart that Baba took great pains to keep unclouded by the dust of the world reflects Baba's image, the image of the divine beloved, as no other can. This role of being the chosen counterpart to the God-man amounts to the highest, purest, most spiritual relationship, consisting of a divine love which the world cannot imagine. Another example of Mehera's number one position among us, while on occasion Baba would offer his hand for us to kiss. It was he who kissed Mehera's hand. In accordance with Meher Baba's directive, Mehera's final resting place is by his side, adjacent to his samadhi. Repeatedly, Baba has said, "If Mehera is happy, I am happy." Baba told the other women, "I love you all, but Mehera is my beloved. She is like my Radha. She is my very breath, without which I cannot live." Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba Karen. Your voice just brought my heart full of Mara's love. Thank you for being so kind to bring us a wonderful, comprehensive look at Mara's life. That was just fabulous. Jai
Thank you for
Baba.
giving me the opportunity. And thank you Baba Meramani. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Now, Cindy Lowe, I know we had talked about, Cindy, if you're there, do you want to come on camera? I was going to play the wedding song that you had sent me. And you had talked about maybe speaking to that night that Mehera passed. There you are, dear. I'll go ahead if you want me to and put that song on. Is that okay? You're muted. Yeah? Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and play that. So just give me a second to get that keyed up. Okay, Baba. Sorry. This might take me just a second more. I had it, but I must have somehow moved it. There it is. All right, we'll try this again. There, Baba. Yep. Okay. You should be able to hear this. Could you hear that okay, or? Okay, sorry then. Didn't mean to interrupt. Here we go.
The night before the wedding, merrily waiting in a state of sweet surrender in a sacred room. Companions gathered round to see the silence more beautiful than ever, and the roses bloomed. Holy night at Mehera's heart, the night before the wedding, merrily waiting while lovers came to greet her in the lantern light. Angels gathered near, their hearts were pounding, they kept their wings from rustling while the women cried. Holy night at Mehera's side. Holy night. The night before the wedding, merrily waiting, creation waited with her through the silent night. The sun prepared for morning, a gift of blazing gold. The moon with silver tears into the midnight sky. Holy night. She got the set right in there.
Jai Baba. All right. I'm sorry. I really wish I had had a picture. I just wasn't. I apologize for such thoughtlessness. But anyway, Cindy wanted to share about that night that Mehera passed. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Cindy.
Hi,
Thank you. Jai
am I,
Baba.
am I live? Okay.
You are.
Well, I think I just did tell about this that night. There were, I believe, 13 people there. And I very much wanted to write a song about it. And it was important for me to do that. So I talked to all but one or two of them about the experience, because I know it was amazing. And they told me just about the atmosphere in the room and how Baba was there and how they felt. Mehera had just flown into his arms. I think more than one person used those words, and it was just so amazing. And then after a person, it used to be that after a person there passed, the body was taken to Mandley Hall. And people would come, all the residents would come. It was May, so there weren't any pilgrims around, but the residents would all get out there somehow or other and keep watch or whatever. I don't know what it's called. You know, they would just sit with her there. And I just felt that must have been one of the most incredible moments ever in the history of the universe, with all those people. And I could just see that angels were just crowding around too with the residents. Anyway, for me, it was, even though I wasn't there, it was a very important thing, because Mehera was very important to me. I had met her in 1969 the first time, but in those days, the Mandla kind of already knew who we were, because Bob had been in touch with us and all that. And Baba's demise was devastating for me, and Mehera's was too. And I didn't know that I would ever recover. But as she was, and I knew when she was getting ready to leave the body, because somebody had been contacting me with updates. So I knew it was pretty imminent. And so what I did was I worked on putting Baba's Beloved God prayer to music. And I finished it. By the time she had gone to Baba, I had finished it. And that to me was Baba's way of telling me that I would be all right, which I found very hard to believe at that point, but that I would be all right, and that the world would be all right. And so time has passed, and I'm all right. I'm not so sure about the world, but that's none of my business. So anyway, that's it. Thank you, and Jai Baba. And I've had a bunch of surgeries and different things have been going on, so I didn't feel like I could really play anything live right now. So I'm happy I got to share that. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Cindy. Thank you so much. Jai Baba.
Thank you.
And I love the Beloved God prayer. I played that over and over and over. It still plays in my head. It just inspired. Thank
Baba
you.
just gave it to me. He just gave it to me. What can I say? You know, I had very little to do with it. But the thing I find most interesting is that the next day I couldn't remember it. And fortunately, I'd made a tape of it with four-part harmony. And so I listened to the tape and I went, oh yeah, there it is. But I knew I wouldn't remember it. So that's why I taped it. But it was definitely Baba just handed it to me. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you, Cindy, so much. Well, it's open if anyone would like to share some of their memories and experiences of Mehera. This is a good time. Just raise your hand. I certainly have had a few. I have some mustache hair in my pendant that I wear. So I'm grateful for that. That was a gift a number of years back. And so that was one thing. I remember a person, one of the people I told about Mehera Baba went to India before I did and came home with some Baba hair for me. And I'll just never forget, I can still see them standing in the doorway at my parents' with this little amulet of hair that Mehera had kindly given because he said, well, she's got diabetes. She may never come to India. Could we have some hair? Could I take some hair back? So I was just thinking of that last night before I went to sleep. All right, I'll stop talking. And I think Rainey, you had your hand up first. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I thought that I'd sing a song that Mehera liked.
That'd
And
be one.
for many years, I never had a photograph of myself and Mehera. But can you hear me well? I bought out the CD Mehera, The Divine Rememberer, like in 2000. And our beautiful late Annie Weld hosted me at her property to do a concert for the CD release and asked everybody in the Massachusetts area to bring their favorite, I'm unmuted, to bring their favorite photograph of Mehera with them. And this woman showed up from Boston that had this photograph. Oh, I don't know if you can see it well.
Yeah, that's good. Beautiful.
And that is the very moment in 77 when I sang this song to Mehera, which she liked. And it had been a dream. And so I could take the vision of the dream down quite well. In those days, I didn't play guitar, so I only knew like 3 chords. So that's what is under it. But this main chord, I've dreamt quite twice in that open chord. My heart wept for Mehera. I saw her one night sitting before me with tears flowing down her cheeks. I cried as I sang to her there in my dream, as we both sat there facing each other. Then I went on dreaming that with her precious tears we made gardens from deserts and grew flowers wherever they fell. Then Mehera came into the garden, so beautiful. He walked through the flowers, touching each one. Until he was standing beside sweet Mehera, where he reached out to her gently, and they faded from sight together, hand in hand, forever together, Mehera and Mehen. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba Rainey. Thank you so much. If is there anything else that comes up, put your hand up.
Well, I thought that I would also just sing, as it's such a short song. There was another short song right after Mehera died, the week after Mehera died, when most of us singers wondered if we'd be able to sing again. And with our grief, it was so sudden, seemingly. I'd been in India right through to almost March 1989. When I look back, I realized there were many indications that she might pass, but nobody really thought about such things. Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, I miss you. Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, I miss you. It's 4:30, it's time for Mehera's tea, time for love stories of darling Meher. From his Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, I miss you. She wears the rings my friend Cindy sings. She is the queen, loveliest yet seen. Oh, Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, I miss you. Oh, now who'll care about my long red hair, if my smile is seen, or if I'm wearing green? Only Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, we miss you. Selfishly we cry for one last wave goodbye, one last whispered sigh of I love you. From his Mehera, purest Mehera, Baba's Mehera, we miss you.
Jay Baba. Thank you, Rainey. Fred. Good morning. Jay Baba.
Good morning, Chai Baba to everybody. In my first trip to India, September 1971, I went to Meherazad after the second day of arrival, and I was greeted by a few of the men Mandalay. Erich took me into Mandalay Hall, and he pointed to where Baba's chair was. And being a Catholic and an altar boy, I genuflected before Baba's chair, sort of not knowing what to do besides that, fold my hands. And suddenly I felt somebody pushing my face down onto Baba's chair. And so I bowed down and I turned around. Afterwards, it was Erich. And Erich basically was giving me a sign that, put your head on Baba's chair. So when I left Mandalay Hall, they said, come and meet Mehera. I walked through the garden and to the porch. Dr. Goher greeted me. Mehera came out and I looked at her, and immediately I prostrated myself before her at her feet, thinking that that's the right thing to do. And suddenly Mehera said, no, only for beloved Baba, only for beloved Baba. And so I felt like digging a hole and disappearing, but I felt this warm hand on my neck. It was Dr. Goher. And she basically comforted me and assured me that I was new and not realizing what to do. Subsequently, my several other visits in 72 and 73, I just had this thought of asking Mehera, and this was when only 6 or 7 people were leaving Meherazad. You could stay until 6 p.m. And I just was on the porch saying goodbye to her. And I said, are you the same as the Blessed Virgin Mary? And she said, yes, like Radha to Krishna and Sita to Ram. And to this day, I still think that that really happened. So innocently, I asked the question and she gave me the right answer. Anyway, so that's my experience. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba Fred, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Oh, is there anybody else? I'm seeing a lot of people here today, and I think a lot of us had the opportunity to be with Mehera. Somebody was speaking earlier about it. It might have been Cindy or somebody just spoke about Mehera's laughter. The way Mehera laughed may have been in the bio. Just, I'll never forget the sound. It was so bell-like. It was like tinkling bells. Just, anyway, I'm not going to share too much. Is there any other person that would like to share? All right, Alan, why don't you go ahead?
I never quite figured how to raise my hand digitally. I'm from a technical wasteland here. Anyway, my first trip to India in '73, for reasons that remain a mystery, Mehera offered to give me and this other fellow a tour of Baba's room, which he did. And this other fellow was not exactly the staunchest Baba guy. In fact, he was still doing drugs before he came to India. So he lasted about a minute and a quarter, you might say. So it was just Mehera and Talbot. Don't know what she saw there, but in any event, I had a little plan and I realized this would be once in a lifetime, and it was. So whenever she would go around the room inch by inch, and when she cried, I cried. And when she laughed, I laughed. And it was incredible. She went through the hair, each picture, each artifact in the room. And after about an hour, she took me outside. I guess she was enthusiastic at this point. She had a receptive audience. And I wasn't going to bollock this up too bad. I hardly said a word. I would just shake my head from time to time. And she showed me the tree with, that Baba had placed there for her outside her window. And then it was tea time. And so I got invited to tea. Now, the interesting backstory or the front story about this is in about 2008, Karen and I were taking a tour of Upper Mehrabad, and Judy Robertson was the tour guide at that point. And she had us under the tin shed, and she said something in advance. I think it was Mehera Day or the day before. We always used to come around then. We went to Mehera Day for years. So she said, well, the men never had tea with Mehera. So I raised my hand. I said, well, that's not right. So I raised my hand and said, no, I had tea with Mehera. And there was about 20 people there, about 10 guys and about 10 women. And it turned out 3 of the other guys were old timers. And I can't remember who they are, but 3 of the other guys had tea with Mehera also. So then we spent some time later, about a year ago, trying to figure out when she discontinued this. And we decided it was around, I contacted the various necessary parties, 75 or so, when she realized that spending time with people like Talbot was probably not good for her very much. I had an interesting experience, probably in 77 or 8. I can't remember which one. I spent both summers there in law school, in between law school. It was the end of the day, and we were on the veranda, and there were a bunch of, I guess they were Rajneeshis. They were in the orange, reddish type robes down below, in the regular section. She was out there talking to them with the women in Mongolia. Meru was there, I remember that. In any event, there was just a few of us, and I was just sitting there. And then Meru was finished talking to these Rajneesh people, and the other women were talking and whatever. And nobody was looking at Mehera, and she was kind of by herself in the middle of the porch, just kind of standing there. I was the only one paying attention to her because I noticed that. And all of a sudden, this one man, big guy, very athletic type, came bounding up the steps of the porch. And I thought, well, this is interesting. He's got a lot of enthusiasm. And Mehera didn't see him. And he then opened his arms like an embrace type arms. And I thought, well, this is getting really interesting. If this fellow continues, he's going to try and hug Mehera. He outweighed me by a bunch. And he had a lot of enthusiasm. I thought to myself, I have about 2 seconds to do something here. I have to like tackle him. But just as I was about to pounce, so to speak, Mehera turned her head to the right and saw him. And his arms were still out like that. He was rolling. And she stepped back and put her hands up like this. She moved her right foot back, kind of to be away from her hands up like that. Says, no, you can't touch me. And the man went down on his knee, I think his right knee, within about 1.5 feet or 2 of Mehera. I mean, he was, I guess Baba gave her the word that there was somebody coming, or she felt it physically, you know, the energy of it. And I thought, well, I wonder who this guy was. And it was John Haynes, who apparently didn't know the rules, because he was ready. Maybe when he was a child, he had seen Mehera at East-West Gathering. Maybe he hugged her then, I don't know. But he was ready to rock at that point. So that was a very sweet moment, almost not, but almost a disaster, you know, because grown men aren't supposed to hug her. My son Matthew, I took to India on Kitty's enthusiasm in 1988. He was 7, and he had tea with Mehera. He sang on the porch with the kids. I know Franny Ed was there too, as I recall. And he had tea with her. And then he wrote her a little postcard, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, and Karen's going to correct me. But it said, "Dear Mehera, thank you for allowing me to have tea with you. Matthew Talbot, a lucky Baba lover." He was 7 years old. And in the long run, we got that back. Well, anyway, I have other stories of Mehera, but there's lots of this here. But I would just say that I was no damn fool, if nothing else. I believed in the old saw that you seize your opportunities. I would sit in front of her, as close as a man would be allowed to sit. And I took every opportunity to sit there and laugh when she laughed and cried when she cried. I figured that out early in the situation, and I spent as much time as I could. So I was a good audience for her, and she liked to talk to me, because I would sit right in front of her, and I guess it was easy on her neck, maybe on her sense of humor or something like that. Anyway, I have many other stories, but others sweet. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, no damn fool and a lucky Baba lover. I hope you come back with some more stories, Alan. Larice? Jai Baba.
Hi, Jai Baba. So I wanted to share a song that I wrote before I really knew who Baba was. I mean, who Mehera was, sorry. And the music, my band and I just jammed. And then I went in to record vocals, and literally I did 3 takes, and what came out, and it was all improvised, was Mehera as an older woman, Mehera as a younger woman, and then I mixed them together, so it's a sound collage. And I'm going to share when I share it, I'm going to it's a recording. I'm going to share the lyrics also, and you'll see the lyrics that are to the left are Mehera as an older woman, and there's an ellipsis, and the interspersed is her as a younger woman. So I'll share this, and I now meditate to both Baba and Mehera's pictures 3 to 5 times a week. Let's see. Can you give me permission to share my
Sure. I sure will, honey. Wait a minute. Go ahead. You should be getting it now.
Okay. Okay, I gotta share my computer sound first. Share computer sound. Okay. So it's called Jasmine. So I'm gonna start it here, and then I'll scroll down so you can see the lyrics. Jai Baba.
Glorious. Jay Baba. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful, Larice. Well, seems like we have a wonderful musical tribute to Baba's beloved. Jeff, do you have anything?
Okay.
Thank you.
It just turned out that I was at Mehrabad working there. This was from mid March to June 1989. And and toward the end of April, word came from Mehrabad that the women were going to be going on their 3-week holiday to Pune. So, I should say that this is after the Pilgrim Center, so there was practically nobody around. There were just a couple handfuls of us. There were only 2 guys who were there temporarily, Tom Fortson and me, and the rest were some of the residents. Anyway, word came that the women Mandali were going on their vacation, and so we were invited out to Mehrabad, and so when we got there, Mehera was, on the porch of the main house, and she was sitting in her chair. Some of the other women Mandali were there, and we kind of stood there, and she greeted each of us. And whenever Mehera would look at me, it's like those love glances would just fill my whole body with this glow. I mean, the love in her eyes. But I had no idea that she was ill and close to the end of her life. I mean, I wasn't told, and maybe most of the other people I know, I guess that Cindy knew, but I didn't. So I didn't know that was the last time I was going to see Mehera. So anyway, and so I went back to Mehrabad, and 3 weeks later they came back, and I resumed to work at Mehrabad, and I was in the afternoon after lunch. I was at one of the staff residence, and this car comes barreling into the compound behind the Mandali Hall at Lower Mehrabad. And it's Jaldas Dura, and he's yelling, "Mehera's gone to Baba! Mehera's gone to Baba!" And he just turns the car and races back off. And I'm thinking, my God, I came out on the porch. Oh, Mehera had passed on. Mehera had been so loving to me over the years. I mean, I had no idea that this was going to happen. And so we got together, the few of us there, knowing that there were going to be hundreds of people coming the next day to be there for her burial. So we had to divide up the various things to be done. And, Alan Wagner was going to do the, of course, the food, and Ted Judson was up on the hill to make arrangements that people were coming. And they gave me the job of preparing Mehera's grave. Now, some of the village boys workers had already dug all of the dirt out of the pit, but it needed to be, cared for, made look nice. And at the bottom of the pit, it was uneven, so I had to work at trying to make it level so that when the coffin came down, it was not it was a flat surface. So I spent the whole afternoon there. Like I say, there were just practically nobody. And so then later on in the afternoon, word came from Mehrabad that we could go out and see Mehera's body before the next day. Some of it already had been out, and there were 3 of us that headed out on these huge Rajdoot motorcycles, huge, and so we're heading out toward Mehrabad, and the sun is going down in the west, and a full moon is coming up in the east. And for most of our, our ride there, we're heading right into the moon. And when we got kind of outside from a distance, before you take that turn from the main road onto the Pimplegown Road, where you can see Seclusion Hill from a distance, I could feel this peace and serenity that pervaded the whole countryside. It was so peaceful. I had the thought that this is what it must have been like when you came to Bethlehem to see on the morning of Jesus' birth. Anyway, so, it was so surprising. Anyway, so we can continue down the Pimplegown Road, and as I got closer and closer to Meherazad, I felt like I was going to dissolve, and this huge piece of metal that I was riding was going to, both of us were going to dissolve. Eventually we got to outside the gate, and I think we parked back so that the noise of the motorcycles wouldn't kind of disrupt Meherazad, and we went in to the compound, and then someone said to go into Mandalay Hall. And so when I stepped in, I gasped, because Mara's, coffin was there right in front of Baba's chair, and open, and Mara looked like she was just sleeping. She looked like she looked like she was just resting, and she looked like she was just 28 years old. That was the year that, she looked like she was in her 80s. She looked so young and peaceful. It was really something. So there were just not many people there. The women in Mandalay would come in and out, but they were very grief-stricken. And we sat around, and oddly enough, instead of singing, someone started singing songs. I think it was Heather and Erico. And we wound up singing not the Baba songs, but all these love songs. The classic love songs, and Johnny Mathis, and they all came alive. They were all you kind of felt like this was celebrating the love of Mehera and Baba. So anyway, we were there for a while. I have no idea. And then we came back to Meherabad, and a lot of people by then had gathered. This is the next morning. And Mehera, it might have been late morning that her coffin was brought, and it was placed up onto that platform, that Sabha Mandap that's near the tomb. And people lined up and paid their respects to Mehera. And I went through there, I paid my respects. I think I can't remember whether her body was open to view or not. I have no recollection. But anyway, afterwards I went over to the tomb, and I just waited there, and people, there was a long lines of people paying respects. And then eventually, so I was standing there by the tomb, by the door, and suddenly I heard my name. I turned around, and they were bringing the coffin into the tomb, and they kind of told me and David Fenster to get inside the tomb and receive the coffin, and we laid it down there. And then I got ready, and then the women Mandalay came in, and I got ready to go, and Mani says, no, stay there. So I stayed there when they said the prayers and the arti for the last time with Mehera. I think Mani wanted me to be able to share this when I got back to Myrtle Beach. Then we carried it out, and the pit was there, a couple decorative ropes, and we lowered her, the coffin down in the ground. And then Mani began, she took out some soil that had been around Baba's body when he had dropped his body, and she put that on the coffin. And then the women Mandalay, I think they put flowers on it, and then everybody started putting flowers on it. This whole the whole pit filled up with flowers, thousands upon thousands of flowers. And then there was a mound that was, of all the earth was maybe 75 feet away, and somehow spontaneously 2 lines formed, and the Baba's, Sorab and Rustam, his twin nephews, they got these buckets called gamala, and they would fill the buckets, and it would pass down from, maybe 75 people on each side, and they were passed these buckets down, and then we would pour them in the grave site. And then the bucket would be given to the other line, and they would pass the empty bucket all the way back. And this went on, and the Rustam and Sora began this chant. It was a very powerful chant. I can't remember, but everybody got into it, and they had very loud voices, and they were belting it out. And so this went on for about 45 minutes, and the grave was filled up, and a mound was put there, and flowers. People paid their respects. The crowd dispersed, and it became very quiet on the hill. But I remember thinking I was witnessing this large, huge event in this Advent, lowering Mehera's body into the grave. But I had only a keyhole awareness of this huge event. I was not large enough to really take in the magnitude of what had happened. And the beautiful thing is, so many people afterwards, they went into the tomb, and there was a photograph. There used to be a photograph at the back of Baba's tomb, and they would see Baba's face, and then Mehera's face, and then Baba's face would appear, and then Mehera, and it was like they had merged forever. It was something to behold. Anyway, that was my experience of that time. Jai Baba. No.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, my heavens, we are so fortunate to have you here today to recount so beautifully detailed images and heartfelt thanks to you for bringing it. It was just amazing how fortunate we are to be here and get to hear. And I just, it seems like there's some music involved today. I don't know if you want to sing "You Are" or one of those old love songs.
Okay, we'll sing one. This is the type of song we sang there. We'll give it a try.
Move over just a little bit. Are we loud enough?
Yeah, it seems so. Sounds great.
It's not the pale moon that excites me, that thrills and delights me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. It's not our sweet conversation that brings this sensation. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. When I'm in your arms, I feel you so close to me. All my wildest dreams come true. I need no soft lights to enchant me, if you'll only grant me the right
you ever
So
so tight.
And to feel in the night the nearness of you.
So beautiful. Jay Baba, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So
Very, very quick story. And other people who didn't get to meet Mehera might have experienced this. I was in India in 2000 and there was a real crisis happening back here. Jeff was back here. And I told someone what was going on. It was very complicated. And they said, go to Mehera and beg her to beg Baba because Baba can't refuse her. And I felt like a complete fool when I went to the grave and I introduced myself. He said, we didn't get to meet, but this is going on. It's very complicated. I really need your help. Could you ask Baba for your help? And within a few hours, and it was really a lot of parts to it. It got resolved. So that's the first time I met Mehera, unfortunately begging her for help, but she gave the help.
beautiful, beautiful story. Yeah, I get it. I just wanted to mention too that I had asked Mehera when I first met Mehera. I think I was on the porch. It might have been the first or second day, but I came on and there wasn't anybody there much. And I said, Mehera, those rings are so beautiful that you're wearing. Did Baba give those to you? And she said, well, I have a story and I'll tell it to you. But if others come on the porch, I'm going to stop. And I said, okay, Mehera, so she started to tell me a little bit about the rings. And then, of course, others came and she stopped. So as we embraced after, being on the porch with her, it was time to go. As we embraced, she whispered in my ear, come back at 4:15, I think she said, or come back at 3:45, it might have been. And I said, oh, and I'll tell you the rest of the story. And I said, oh, thank you, Mehera, thank you. Well, I also had like that much of a view. I was so narrow. I just didn't, So I went to the front and had tea, Oliva and everybody, and we're there. And then around the corner, all of a sudden, I think it was Casey, came running around the corner, found me and said, where have you been? You were supposed to meet Mehera at 3:45. And I said, oh, I thought I heard through 4:15. And so I was waiting for 4:15. I didn't realize 3:45. She said, well, come right now. So off we raced over to the porch and there was Mehera. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, Mehera. I thought you said 4:15. And she said, you Americans don't listen very well. And I said, oh, yes, Mehera, you're so right. We don't. And she said, well, I think she said she wasn't going to share right then with me about the rings, but that I could come back, and she set up a day, maybe 2 days later, to come at 11 to the porch, which I did. And she prepared, she knew I was diabetic. So instead of giving me any of the, little treats that were often available with Mehera, she cut up fruit for me. She cut pieces of fruit and had them on a plate. So when I came, she said, just wait a minute. And she came and she brought me this wonderful treat of these pieces of fruit that she had cut with her own hands. So I sat down and ate those. And then she came out with kind of a treasure box and some photos of Baba and said, pick one. And I looked at them and, I picked one that was Baba, not quite really young, but kind of middle young. And she said, I knew you would pick that one. So that was one of my experiences with her about those rings. So it was so wonderful to hear what Karen brought today, just the memory of how that worked. And she ended up with those 2 rings and Baba actually put them on her finger. So I just wanted to thank you. again, Karen, for such a beautiful thing. Yes, Cindy.
I'd like to ask Jeff something because I know many people that were there had told me how beautiful Mehera looked on her burial day. So maybe I was thinking he could tell us a bit more about that.
You mean when I saw her in the coffin there in Mandalay Hall?
Yeah,
Hmm. I mean, like I say, the year 28, she just looked so young. I mean, she looked like she must have looked when she was that age, you know, and just resting. It was like like someone sleeping, taking a nap in the afternoon. You know, a young woman, as and and yet it wasn't like I was superimposing an image on it. I think with all of her real, you know how sometimes if you're profoundly relaxed, sometimes you can look very young again. And I didn't see, she was like so at, her face, her expression was so at peace, you know. And, but no, I wish I could Xerox that. I mean, I wish I could Photoshop, whatever. I wish I could get that to you. But it would be like if you were to see her when she was that age, or, you know, something like that, it would have, that's the way she appeared to me.
that's what everyone said. That's what's so amazing that so many people said that. Some said she looked like she was 18, and some said she looked like she was 20. People said different things, but they all said she looked so young and absolutely beautiful. And I truly always thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world. I really did.
She was truly beautiful. Even, you know, when I first met her, you know, I just, wow, what a, and not only that, I mean, her inner being was so heaven. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to, I have to say also, there was a time since I was diabetic, I had a glucometer, and in those days they were like this big. And I was asked if I would check Mehera and Mani, I guess just Mehera and Mani's blood sugar because there was a possibility that it was some, you know, running in the family. And when I went to the porch that morning, I was sitting on the porch waiting for Mehera. I think it was that morning again, and I got to be alone with her, and so I was waiting. And when she same thing that you're saying, she came to the door, and as she walked out, I had never seen anything so beautiful. And I said, "Oh, Mehera, you are so beautiful." And she said, "I look like this every day." I was just, you know, I was just stymied. I just had to smile at her, and we proceeded from there to uh, have her blood sugar checked. And I came in and we sat on a little love seat together. And people had warned me that Mehera seemed to be very sensitive to pain, that she had an incredible sensitivity to pain. I don't know if it was from all those years of taking on Baba's pain or just feeling so intensely what pain could be. And so there I was, you know, and I was going to prick her finger. And so I said, you know, as a good nurse, I said, well, Mehera, you know, I'm going to clean your finger and then I'm going to prick it and we'll get a little drop of blood. And she was immediately started saying, Mehera Baba, Mehera Baba, Mehera Baba, Mehera Baba. So of course, what can a body do but say Mehera Baba with her? So there we were, the two of us, Mehera Baba, Mehera Baba. And I cleaned the side of her finger, not the tip, but the actual lateral side, because there's no nerves there, not as many. And and I had said that to her, you won't feel it so I said, Mara, you won't feel it so much because I'm going to use the side and I'm going to rub it with alcohol for a while to help deaden that area. So you won't feel it very, and she said, yeah, that's what they all say. So then I started saying Mara Baba again. And I did. I got the blood sample and she said it was fine. You know, it didn't hurt. So gratitude there. And her blood sugar was good as well. So that was, but just having that opportunity to be alone with her when she walked out that door, it's like everyone has just said, like you guys were saying in Cindy's song about Mara Moon reflecting his light. I mean, it was so clearly there. I had just never seen anything so beautiful before or since. So, yeah. Well, again, there's a few other people here, and Karen has something. I don't know if you're ready to read the piece you have from Casey. Just not quite
Okay. Casey sent something. No, I'm not muted. I'm okay. You can hear me now? Great. Okay, Casey sent something to read today. And she wrote up some of her memories. From late 1978 until 1989, I was extremely fortunate to spend all my days, except Fridays, in Mehera. Of course, I was always happiest when I was near Mehera. It seemed Baba was always with her. What can I say? It was like that. Much later, Mani told me that after Baba had dropped his body, Mani felt his presence the most when she was with Mehera. In Mehera's time, Baba's home was usually very quiet, elegantly still. Baba's women did a beautiful job trying to keep the bungalow free of distractions so that dearest Mehera would be able to keep her focus on Baba, whatever she was doing. The women took beautiful care of Mehera and helped her whenever she needed it. Of course, there were usual daily conversations, a retelling of a Baba story, letters to dictate, Mani's relating of a humorous event, mealtime conversation, good light teasing, and so on. But at the back of it all was Mehera's happiness, which Baba wanted and which the women did everything they could to maintain. And that meant allowing her time to be alone with Baba. Early on, Mehera and Goher asked me to do some work on Baba's photos. Perhaps the glass needed cleaning or the frame needed to be opened for repair. And sometimes the picture itself needed a little restoration. In those days, when I'd open a frame back, I never knew what I'd find. Newspapers from the 1950s, old medical records Goher had used as frame padding, and so on. I had no access to anything like new cardboard, let alone today's wonderful archival products. But Mehera and Goher and Meru would always find marvelous things for me to work with. And of course, I was on a steep learning curve when it came to work with beloved Baba's photos because most of them had been in Baba's home during his time. I had to learn to use extreme care. One day, I heard Meru urgently calling me from the main bungalow, and I went running. It seems the wind had blown a curtain which had knocked over a photo of Baba's, and it had landed on the floor, glass shattered. It was a true favorite of Mehera's, and Meru had quickly wrapped the picture in cloth so that Mehera wouldn't have to look at the broken picture anymore. When I got there, I could see the situation. Meru was trying to pacify Mehera. So when she asked me to go straight to the bazaar and get the frame fixed, I simply said, sure, took the cloth wrap package and went on my way. Out of Mehera's sight, I opened the package, carefully removed all the broken glass, saw that the photo was unharmed, dusted it off, and packed it all up for a trip on my scooter into the bazaar. Luckily, the good framer was there. He cut a new glass immediately. We cleaned the glass and frame, carefully replaced Baba's photo, and the framer did the rest. I was left with the daunting challenge of returning Baba's photo to Meherazad unharmed via my scooter. By his grace, early the next morning, I arrived in Meherazad. Saying nothing, I simply handed the photo to dear Mehera, and you should have seen her smile. Unforgettable, unbounded happiness. And in that moment, I had a glimmer of what it was to please Baba. Now, no wonder his happiness was their happiness. Once, years later, in Baba's house, Mehera was standing near the photo of Baba mentioned above. She beckoned me to her, reached behind the picture of Baba, and brought out an adorable little round sandalwood box about an inch across with a little point on top. To my delight, she handed me the box. I said, wow, thank you, Mehera, and gave her a little kiss on the cheek. Then she said, for goodness sakes, open it. I hadn't even considered opening it. I felt pretty silly, but when I did, I saw a beautiful, very clear little photo of Baba inside the box, and his love poured out, just poured and poured. I was immobilized, and then Mehera said, I have been wanting to give this to you for a good month or two. Oh my gosh, even though Mehera had wanted to give this little photo to me for some time, she'd waited until Baba prompted her. He knew the exact right time for me to receive it, and it was perfect. And in her unparalleled wisdom and obedience to Baba, Mehera would even say, yes, it's much easier to do than to not do. Perhaps it's less in our doing and more in the waiting for Baba's nod to us, that he can do what he'd like to do. To end this little string of memories, I recall Mehera saying with such charm and love, appreciation is a big part of loving Baba. How beautifully she appreciated Baba's hand in all of our lives, in everything. Many times when pilgrims and residents would gather in Meherabad for Baba's Samadhi Darshan and Arti, Baba would ask us, why have you come here? And then she'd say, it is Baba's love and his love alone that has brought you here. May we all learn to appreciate him more and more in each and every aspect of our lives in his creation. Beloved Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. From Casey Cook. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Once again, that sweet voice of yours. Thank you so much. What a wonderful message. What great story. Our Mehera. Yeah, she defended me because when I was in India, I bought a lot of things at the bazaar and had clothing made, and so the women used to make fun, and they once went over to Mehera and said, Ruth's closet over at the Pilgrim Center is just chock full of clothes and stuff. She's such, and Mehera said, oh, that's wonderful. We should always look beautiful for Baba. We should look beautiful for Baba. So I think that's great. She just defended me. Great that she has those things and looking pretty for Baba. So anyway, I appreciated that. Rainey, do you have anything else, honey? I saw you pop up there.
Yes, just because Frainietta woke up and listening to all the stories, I got her breakfast. When I first met Mehera, it was 1973 when our small group went with Francis Brabazon for Amartithi, and then we went every year forever and more to Amartithi. And there's a photo here of me confiding something very personal to Mehera. And her reaction was extremely practical and extremely practical of a very difficult situation for a very young Baba lover on pilgrimage. And I realized then that one could talk to her about anything. It didn't have to be spiritual or sing. Her favorite song that I would sing was The Dawn Light Breaks, which at the time we thought was a bit of a joke in the end, because I told her that the Americans think this is the only song I know because you always ask for it. And she thought that was a great joke. But then when I had Frainietta, I decided to, how could I tell the Mandali this thing that had happened, that I had a trisomy 21 child. So I wrote a very long letter explaining it all, because the way they have you bond with these children is with information, medical information, through child development centers and so on. So I started getting all these letters back from Mani and Mehera about Franny and asking more and more questions, and they bonded with her very beautifully in 1980. And I wanted to bring her straight to India, but Mani asked me to please wait until she was 7. And I did. And then when she came along, it was at the same time as another Down syndrome, that's Professor Down, discovered the syndrome, child who was very, very high functioning and very pretty. And Frainietta was a little bubbler and speech impaired. She spoke sign, but she was shy. And but Mehera and the women worked all that out over time, and included Frainietta in things that she might not normally be included in so much, and she enjoyed that. And so in 1989, I'll go straight to what I want to say, Franny's story. In 1989, we were there for 6 months. We were emigrating from Australia back to America, and our container got stuck in a strike. And we were in India for 6 months. We'd been there for 5 months the year before, but then we were in India for 6 months. And my birthday is the 24th of January. And as well as my birthday, Judith Garbutt from our group, who wrote the magnificent book about the women's lives of love, which is quite a study and been republished by Eric Tepperman, an amazing book of the stories from the women, particularly Mehera. And so Mehera asked us to come for lunch for our birthdays. And she kept the leftover lunch and for somebody to watch Franny. So Eric said he'd watch Franny. So I could go to this lunch. He was in the habit of watching her in the mornings anyway at 11. So I go around for lunch, and it was their leftover meal. So it was incredibly hot, and Judith was unable to eat a lot of it. And it was lamb, saag paneer, some rice, and colostrum custard made from the first green milk of the cow after they give birth. And so Judith ate just a little mouthful of each. Mehera served us. And so I said, oh gosh, this is yummy. Mehera scooped her hands in the incredibly hot lamb and shoved a huge mouthful in my mouth. And I thought I was going to expire. I mean, sweat was running out of my eyes. It was so hot, but I swallowed it down, and then she kept doing it. And then she gave me the saag paneer, and I did not want the rice. I had a mouthful of the rice with a spoon, and then out came the colostrum custard. Well, I had no idea what I was looking at. It was green, you know. And she said, this is colostrum custard. It was so delicious. It was so thick and so creamy custard with pistachio and sweet. And then she said, so you need to eat this colostrum every day. You need to live a long time because of Frainietta. not because of me. And that will make me sleep better. And I pray to Baba every night for Franietta's safety. And so this is a very good meal, because this is what I serve Baba at the end: the lamb, the saag paneer, and the colostrum custard. And so my mind's wandering off, where on earth am I going to get colostrum custard for the rest of my life? You know. So anyway, we had this beautiful birthday lunch, and then suddenly Mehera goes, oh, 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 and you know, she could shoot off faster than Baba, and the her little slippers off she shot, and we sort of ran along behind her, and she stopped in the living room. She said, so there's something I need to tell you. See, this is where I should have known things were going to be different. This is January 24th, 1980, in 1989, 88, 89, January 24th, 1989. So Mehera says, I'll be out in a minute, Judith, and says, so with Franny, I want you to be very, very careful. She's a Baba lover, and she's very dear to Baba, so I don't want her to sit on any men's knees. I don't want her to be left alone with men other than her parents. I don't want you to cut her hair. And I want you to outlive her. And so I realized then the whole thing about the meal was to live healthily and try to eat this colostrum once a day and so on. And so we get out onto the veranda. So now we'll go into a funny story. We get out onto the veranda. Some people have heard this before. It's hilarious. If you knew Rhoda Dubash, this is an hilarious story. So we get out, and so suddenly Mehera's facing me, and Rhoda Dubash shoots in the middle of us and says, oh, so you had a special lunch for your birthday. She was very frank, our dear Rhoda. We were quite used to her. And sometimes with hurt feelings and sometimes really laughing about her at the Samadhi with her bottle of water in an old whiskey bottle, and pilgrims thinking she was drinking whiskey at the Samadhi. She was quite a character. So she said, oh, so it was your birthday and you had a special lunch? I said, oh, yes, me and Judith. It was both our birthdays, feeling quite self-conscious. And then she says, one other thing Mehera said in the four things with the fifth thing, that I must never tell my age. And I suppose it gets rid of getting dead and being old. Formerly, she had told me to take 10 years off. And then she said to me, that's really telling fibs to take the 10 years off. I have to think about that. So this day it was, don't let her sit on men's knees. Don't leave her with men alone. Don't cut her hair. You outlive her, and never tell your age. So Rhoda Dubash goes, with Mehera looking at me behind her, and exactly how old are you? An exam student standing here says, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Oh, I thought I'd nailed it, you see. So Mehera's just, yes, we've nailed it. That's it. That's what you say. And Rhoda Dubash says, and you're a little bit vain too, aren't you? And it sort of took my breath away, and I went, oh, yes, I am definitely a lot of that. And Mehera goes, behind Rhoda's back. And I have dozens and dozens of letters here from Mehera and Mani about Frainietta and her development, and the fact that two Down syndrome girls showed up on the very same day, unbeknownst to each other, Dagmar with Laura and myself with Franny, in Artie's office, cannot be overlooked. And the women did not overlook this fact either. It really brought Down syndrome people, 1 in 600 live births, to the forefront that particular season before Mehera died. I actually have a little note. You know, Mehera used to write Mehera's letters because Mehera didn't like her handwriting. But I have a little note, Meru, don't forget to tell Rainey in that letter that I pray for Franny every night. And once I said to Mehera, look, Mehera, it's no use. It's an extra chromosome in every blood cell. There's no use wasting a breath every night. And she said, keep out of it. And so I can't, nothing else much comes to mind right now except always looking lovely. Always
Yeah.
looking lovely. Mehera told us a story about a woman who had been incredibly beautiful and fell so blissfully in love with Baba and the whole mood, and was sort of in love with love, and let herself go. And she came to Meherabad, and Baba told her, "You have no idea how pulled down I feel when you look like this, when you are so beautiful and you don't come to Baba presenting yourself beautifully. You're his creation. You should present yourself beautifully before Baba." Mehera was telling the story. And she started looking after herself better after that. She was very fussy, and one time a girl came looking raggy, and Katie came and fixed her up and made her look nicer before she went round to the veranda. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Yeah, there's a Rumi poem. I think the first line is, "The lovers of God always come fresh-faced." And I forget what the next line is, but that's right. We do our best. And look at,
Yes, Mani had a line where somebody was in sort of a bliss state, and then Mehera brought out a card, and it was of Radha and all the gopis in bliss, but Radha was absolutely a profile fixated on the beloved's face. And Mani said, "One has to be very careful not to fall in love with love. One has to be mindful to remain in love with the beloved."
thank you, Rainey. And Mahu, there's a beautiful woman.
Oh, thank you.
Jai
You
Baba.
yourself is beautiful, and Mehera is beautiful. Jai Baba. I just want to share. I mean, I had good fortune of being here today and listening to everyone, because I didn't meet Mehera in body, because I came to Baba after Mehera left her body in 1989. So I came to Baba in 1995, and I thought I'd share this because this is about life after Mehera left, and how her grace is still there for us, and Baba, of course. So when I came to Baba, Mehera was a big mystery to me, and I was coming from an intellectual background, so I was trying to understand it. Something Baba said, never do that, because if you try to understand, you stay away from God. So anyway, I tried to understand, because everybody was talking about Mehera, how they met Mehera, how beautiful she was, and how she reflected on Meher Baba and so forth. And I felt really missed out. Yet I was trying to, I also had a little judgment about her in my mind, a stupid mind. And so I kept on asking Baba. I said, "Oh, Baba, what is this? I'm having this feeling about Mehera, is unknown, is mystery, and can you help me? Can you help me?" Inwardly, I kept on begging him. And in the beginning, since I used to go to India almost every year, one of these trips, I went to Baba's Samadhi first, and I asked him once again. And then after I was done with, taking darshan, I went to Mehera's tomb. And at that point, I felt like my feet was stuck in the ground, I just couldn't move. And my heart was so melted. And I felt Mehera so strongly that I started sobbing, and I fell down on her tomb and cried and so forth. And through that, I think her and Baba brought her love to me so much, because ever since then, she's like Baba to me in a feminine side of Baba, no doubt. He's a feminine side of Baba, same connection, same love I have for her, same respect, same gratitude, and so forth. And that didn't even end. So Baba did little things, or Mehera, I don't know who did it afterwards. So like one time I was in Adele Watkins' house. Of course, she was my spiritual mother, and I would go there a couple of days a week. And Corina Page came back from India, she was going, and she would usually stay in Mehera, and she had a couple of necklace in her hand, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, said, "Oh, Mahu, this is a necklace for you. This is a necklace, is a gold. It belongs to Mehera, and Baba touched it so dearly. This is for you." I said, "Me?" And she said, "Yes, that's for you." So I got that. And then another time, this other lady came and gave some stuff to the center, and out of everything, she gave me one of jewelry that Mehera used to wear, and I said, "Thank you." So, "Oh, I want you to have that," out of nowhere. And then, we did a play for a new life at LA Center that Ralph Brown and wrote it, and what is the name who did the music? Anyway, my mind doesn't work well because perhaps Baba doesn't run my mind. Yeah, and they, out of nowhere, they gave me the role of Mehera. I was playing Mehera's role. So, I was, and it came out naturally. Somehow people liked it. I really didn't even practice. It came out naturally. And then I had a couple of very nice experience in Baba's room with Mehera. So, that goes to tell what Baba says, if you ask something wholeheartedly from the bottom of your heart, I dare not to neglect you. I am the ocean of love and compassion. This is his last message on alphabet board. So here's my little story. And I don't know if Jeff Wolverton is there, but when he was sharing so genuinely, this came to me. There is no accident that Jeff was there. There is no accident that he was chosen to see Mehera in coffin open and see that beautiful face of 20 years old, and later on be at the tomb when the women Mandeli arrive from Mehera bringing the coffin again, and ask him and David Femster to be in the tomb and help him. You see, Baba forbidden most men to see Mehera, but Jeff, you gotta get credit for that. You're a pure man. Baba chose you to be there, and I thought I would like to acknowledge that about Jeff Wolverton. Anyway, Jai Baba, Avatar Meh Baba ki Jai.
Jai Baba Mahu. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Alan?
Well, it's tough to follow Mahu,
I know.
but I'll struggle on. I want you to know she stayed for this because she was so excited about this event. In any event, people have said, and I'm going to say it again, that if you pleased Mehera, you pleased Baba. And I did that once in my life, at least, I should say, maybe more, but I know objectively at least once. And this is the story. In 1978, Murshida Deuce, I'm not a Sufi, but Murshida Deuce had found out I was going to India. And she called me over to her house and asked if I could do her a favor. And I said, sure. 3B, who's the artist, 3B Diane Cobb, Dimple Cobb, had a continuous correspondence with Mehera from the time she was 16 or 14, actually. And she had done this beautiful painting for Mehera, and she was trying to figure out a way of sending it to India. So I was the one going next to go to India. So that was the reason for the call-in. And it's a very large painting. And of course, it was placed on its sticks and rolled up. And the way I was going was through Japan, through Indian Airlines, Air Japan, and through their new place. And that's a whole other story, which doesn't involve this. But let's just say that this whole trip was remarkable to get there. And I flew to India and went to Delhi. I was coming a couple weeks early because you're not allowed in before June 15th. I was going to go back to Kashmir. I'd been there in 77. And I got really sick in Delhi. It was for those of you who could do centigrade, it was 44 degrees at 2 a.m. when I arrived. And for the rest of you, it's 114. So the next morning, I went with Kusum Singh, with whom I was staying, to try and get a ticket on Indian Airlines to Kashmir, and got heat stroke. And that was the whole story. Nearly died, I think. But any event, I went to Kashmir, came back, and the monsoon had kicked in. It's amazing. You can go to 115 to 75 in one day, for any of you who have ever seen the monsoon. And I flew from Delhi on June 14th to Aurangabad, where the Ellora Caves are. But of course, I had this big painting. It was about 5 feet tall on the sticks. And so I had to go special cargo. And when I got out of the plane, Aurangabad was a little airport. I don't know what it's like now, but in those days, it was nothing. And I got the painting along with my suitcases, and there was nobody in the airport. It was dark and it was closed. And I was by myself. It was the last flight of the night. It was like 8 o'clock. And I'm wandering around the airport in the pitch dark for like 45 minutes going, this is quite the interesting story. You know, having nearly died in Delhi, this is a small deal, but this was kind of, finally, a maintenance guy or janitor came up to me, didn't speak much English, and he said, what are you doing here? And I tried to explain it to him. So he got me somehow a means of conveyance into town, and I got a hotel or motel, whatever they had. And the next morning I got up real early, and this is the part that remains a mystery to me. Told the man to take me, the cabbie, to take me to Meherazad. And somehow the man knew how to get to Meherazad. I mean, this is just a cab driver in front of the hotel I was staying at. So this guy, I don't recall him asking anybody, he just seemed to know how to get to Meherazad. Well, in any event, we rolled in at 9 a.m., which was opening day, June 15th, 1978. And he didn't pull into where Goer's old clinic was. He pulled into the area in front of Mandalay Hall with stones flying and dust all everywhere. Alabah's going insane, I should tell you. And he's yelling and screaming at the cabbie, what are you doing? You know, I guess in his own language. And they got me out of the cab. Everett's told the guys to take my suitcases. Goer had come over on her little bicycle and said that Mehera was waiting for me. Mind you, that the correspondence had been that I was bringing the painting for Mehera. So I walked the painting back with Goer on her little bike. And when we got to the veranda, I gave the painting to Goer because I obviously didn't want to be risking touching Mehera. And so they unfolded the painting. And this is what the painting was. And some of you may have seen it. On the cover of The Glow and at Meherazad and at the museum up in Upper Mehrabad, you know, in the room up there. It's a picture of Baba on a white horse. 3B had done this thing, and it's unbelievably beautiful. And she also did one with Muhammad on a camel, same format. So now mind you, I'm the only pilgrim there. I was opening pilgrim season June 15th, 1978 at 9 a.m. by myself. And I spent the entire day with the Mandali, mostly the women. I ate with the men. And I pleased Mehera. And I felt in pleasing Mehera that I must have pleased Baba. Because if you pleased Mehera, you pleased Baba. So it was one of the really remarkable, obviously not ahead of marrying Karen and having 3 kids, of course. But in the realm of the spirituality, I suppose you could say, it was one of the great experiences, if not the greatest experience of my career as a Baba guy, which is over 52 years, because in the end, I pleased Mehera, and I therefore must have pleased Baba. So, Baba.
That's a wild adventure. Jay Baba Allen, that was beautiful.
There's way more danger and way more damage to me, but I kept it down to the Baba part of it, and not the personal part.
I hear you. Well, you know, Baba, he takes us through all those things for his own reasons. Thank you so much. Meher Prasad, good morning.
Good morning, Jai
Jai
Baba. This is one of the stories that Adi K. Irani said, and he said that in the context of why Baba said that Mehera loved him as he should be loved. Some of you may have heard this story, but this was I think it was in 1965 that Baba was giving darshan to a large group of people, or it may be East-West gathering, I don't remember. But it was a large gathering in Guru Prasad, and Baba was sitting in a chair looking at people. And Adi K. Rani was conveying something or talking with Baba about something. And he didn't want to obstruct Baba's view of people. So he was talking to Baba behind the ear. And you'll see in the movies where Baba is talking like this to Adi K. Rani. And after some time, Mehera sent a message to Adi that don't talk to Baba from behind because he has to, twist his head and it hurts his head. So go in front of Baba and talk to him. And she was the only one that saw that. Nobody else really noticed how much it was paining him. And Adi K. Irani said that's when he really realized that why Baba said Mehera loves him as he should be loved. Anyway, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, what a beautiful story. Thank you. Thank you, Meher Prasad. Beautiful. Marilyn. Hi.
Hi, Ruthie.
Hi,
Jai
Baba.
Baba, everybody. Thank you for your beautiful shares and honoring Mehera. I just want to read this poem. And before I do, I'll just say also, when I was in India, sitting in the veranda and Mehera was there, she would just come out gracefully and sit in a chair like the royal queen, and she wouldn't say a word. She would just pass out pictures of Baba. This side was getting pictures, this side, and nothing said. And we just sat in silence, gazing at the pictures. That's something I remember. Pools of love, pools of beloved Baba's love from her eyes. And this poem, or song really, was written by John Mark Demetes from his CD, How Many Lifetimes. Came across this. I love some of the music on this. I'll just read it to you. It's called You Are. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. You are. You are the one. You are my friend. My one true love. My sweet companion till the end. You are my hopes. My darkest fears. You are the days. You are the weeks. You are the months. You are the years. You are Mehera. You are my heart. You are my blood. You are the river. You are the flood. You are Mehera. And when I'm old and when I die, I'll see your face in the sky. And I will fly into your arms and we will dance across the heavens. We will sing. You are the words. You are the tune. You are Mehera. You are my sight. You are my breath. You are my life. You are my death. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Jai Baba. So beautiful. Mark DeMatteis, yeah, wonderful musician and Baba lover first. Well, I'm just asking, is there anyone else that we'd like to share? We're getting down, I was going to say Dr. Goher. Goher. Jay Baba.
Just Gohar, that's it. Baba
I
Gohar, that's it. Well, my memories of Mehera go back to the first one in 1962 at the East-West Gathering, when I was only about 7.5 years old, and the momentous day of November 1st, when it all of a sudden started pouring, in between the darshan, and Baba had the Western women and some of us Eastern women go inside to get changed because we were totally drenched. And so I remember going in and being with the women, and of course, that was the first time I saw Mehera and remember her from that time. But my interaction was not with her at the time. I was more interacting with Mani, who had given me her dress to wear and then subsequently had sent me that dress when we had gone home after the darshan. So that was the first meeting, very first. I was only, like I say, almost 8 years old. That was it. Then in 65, when we went again for the Eastern darshan, I was almost 11 at the time. This was also in November, no, this was in May of 65, correct. But Baba had a big Eastern group come at that time. That time we spent, one day I remember we were sitting on the veranda at Guru Prasad with the women mandli. Baba had sent us to go visit with the women mandli, and of course I was there. And Mehera asked me to sing, and I, being a very shy child, I was absolutely mortified at first. Oh my goodness, what am I going to sing? But Mehera had asked, and of course I had to please her. So the only song that entered my head at the time was one that we had just recently learned in school, which was Way Down Upon the Swanee River. Remember that it was a Negro spiritual, so I sang that, and Mehera was very pleased. She liked it a lot. So that was the second time. Then that was 65. Then I remember, of course, going for the great darshan after Baba dropped his body. But I don't remember, of course, I saw Mehera at that time, but we didn't have any close interactions with her at that point. But then in 1983, January of 83, and this was after I was married and I had one child and one on the way. When I visited India at the time, I was pregnant with my second child, who we didn't know at the time, was going to be a he or a she, whatever. But in my heart, I was wanting it to be a son because we already had a daughter. But then, of course, I left it to Baba's will. Well, when I met Mehera at that time, she took my hand at one point and she brought me inside when she realized I was carrying, my child. And she brought me in and she came to Baba's photo. And looking up at Baba's photo, she put her hand on my stomach and, on my belly. And then she just looked up at Baba's photo and she was communing with him. She was either praying or talking to him, and I could see her lips moving. Don't know what she said, but I so remember that instance is so profoundly there in my consciousness. And I truly feel that this child was so blessed, and he truly was, because he did come to be a son. We had a son a few months later named Darius, and he's one of my 3 heavenly gifts from Baba, of course. And but Darius had a very challenging childhood, and I truly believe it was because of Mehera's blessing him the way she had when he was still unborn, that today he's a dad himself with 2 beautiful sons of his own. So truly a blessed, yeah. So that was my last meeting with Mehera. Yeah, it was in early 1983. So, Jai Baba. Thank you.
Jay Baba Goher. Thank you so much. What an image. That's beautiful.
I have that photo somewhere. I will try to find it and share it at some point. And my husband was there, so he had taken a picture of her with her hand on my stomach and praying to Baba. So
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, yeah. Try to find it. I just thought of it, this morning, and I just didn't have time to look for it, but I will. I'll find it.
You brought a beautiful image with
Oh,
your
thank you.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
with your heart. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Betty? Jai
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
Mhm.
It's wow. Listening, being at this meeting, it just sort of brings a new. It feels kind of like being there with Mara. So aware of my own inadequacies, and so I was so. Two things come to mind. Her incredible attention to detail. All Mani, Mara, all of those women were um, so focused on small things like the gifts they gave, or the and uh, um, I was kind of a spacey, as you talked about yourself, Ruthie, kind of a spacey Westerner who kind of didn't get it. uh, and so I felt always just inadequate. But realizing that you just have to be inadequate and go on. You just have to persevere. You can't kind of wallow in your in that's just a form of ego. It's just so that was one thing. Oh, and that mention of how the women dressed. Oh my goodness, they were so beautiful. Um, uh, it, and it was so. I guess a certain Western laziness is what it is. It's so easy to wear jeans and a t-shirt, but wow, they put up. For Baba, they really they were beautiful, and it's just a great ideal to have. I have I've told this story many times. Uh, um, we our family arrived. There were we were stepkids, and then their half brother is actually was technically a foster child. We were a mixed family. I don't know. We had different story than. And this one, his name is Gary. He was such trouble. um, and I just love him dearly. And so when it came time for me to introduce the kids, um, who are not they don't consider themselves Baba lovers now, but they've been there. I know somewhere there's a connection. Any of our 5 children, no 6. So when Mara was kind of sorting out, so our youngest daughter Shireen, who was 7, and Gary and Sage were there, and when she came around to Gary, she said, she said, so I said, what did she say? She said, who's this? I said, he's my stepson. This was really a foster one. She said, she reacted to that. She said, no, you must never refer to him that way. And then she turned to Gary, who was sitting and kind of spacing out on the porch. And she said, so Gary, who's this? And he said, oh, that's my mom. And she kind of was like, and like I said, I've told this story many times. It was very profound. And she said, you must, and to this day, he's a joy. So that was and Shireen, our daughter Shireen, mommy would call her little mommy. Mani would call her my little mummy. Oh, Shireen had she would pull her hair. It's a condition, you call it trichotillomania, and she would do that. Our life was sometimes stressful. And so when the women, Mani and Mehera, took great care with, said, now you must, they didn't know what was happening, but they would say, cream, feed her cream. Like, take care of this baby. She was 7. So that was so sweet. But there were times when, well, there was a time that it was kind of a hard lesson, but it was about time for us to go, and the women, it was time for the women's arti, but it was the once a month when the women came for arti, and my kids, we had been there 6 weeks. They didn't want to go. They wanted to. They were staying down at the PC and playing at the frog pond. They just didn't want to go, and I should have insisted. I should have said, just this once, I should have, but I didn't. I said, all right, and I went, and then I arrived up there, and Mehera, well, she noticed it at the time, and then on the porch later, she said, so where were you? Where were the kids? Where was Shireen? She was interested. And I don't know, I didn't have the heart to say, oh, they just didn't feel like, oh, sorry. She said, oh, it was probably you had given her a bath, and it wasn't a good time for, I felt like she was saving me from explaining what it wasn't a good time for that. So I guess my point is, I didn't always live up, there were some wonderful times and there were some difficult times, but she, what a role model. Yeah. So I'll stop there. Jai Baba, thank you.
Jay Baba. I think what you're bringing forward is that loving kindness that we were able to experience and see and have in our personal lives, so that we could bring it back and hold it dear, which you do, Betty. You hold that so dear to your heart. Everyone gets that from you. So yeah, Jai Baba. Rainey, did you want to share something?
I represented myself then, I represented Franny, but I thought it would be nice to represent something rare by my mentor and best friend, Frances Brabazon, a Mandali poet resident. It's a poem. I put it to music. It's very complicated. It's on the CD, Mehera, the Divine Rememberer, and I'll do it on May 27th when I've practiced it more, because it's very hard to play. I put it to classical music. But Frances wrote a poem for Mehera. The men were rather self-conscious about Mehera, particularly Frances, even when they went round that one time that they were allowed to meet her finally. He said the difficulty of making his eyes look up was agony, because he'd followed the order for so long not to look at her, not to, even if it was by mistake out of the corner of one's eye, one did not look at her. So he wrote her this poem and sent it round to the women's side. He used to use the Baba calendar from the year Baba was born. So it's Mehera year 73, which comes out as the 22nd of December, 1967. Frances Brabazon sent a note round to Mehera for her birthday. Now, having studied a lot academically of poetry, and my husband as well, this poem is unique in all of the history of avatars, because it's pointing out that Mehera, the divine consorts, are carefully thought through from the creation point. I sing of you, Mehera, the beloved of all mankind. Before he began the creation, the beloved created you to mirror to him his love, so that he would know it ever anew. Before he began the creation, the beloved created you to mirror to him his love, so that he could know it ever anew. So I sing of you, Mehera, the beloved of all mankind. Then he made the earth as an arbor for your pleasure and your quiet shade. He ordered the stars out as your escort and the moon to be your maid. I sing of you, Mehera, the beloved of all mankind. And he created the sun and rain to keep the earth always fair and green, bearing to seasons choicest fruits and flowers for you, his chosen queen. I sing of you, Mehera, the beloved of all mankind. The beloved because of a whim caused the whole creation to be, and in a one-word poem he contained it. And you are its melody. I sing of you, Mehera, the beloved of all mankind. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Well, that might be a good place to end this celebration, unless someone has a burning desire. We always can have a burning desire for the beloved. All right, let's have a moment of silence. Jai Baba. Betty, I think you wanted to add one thing?
Yes, I just wanted to say that we are also going to gather after morning arti on Thursday, on the 20th, for a sort of more impromptu sharing and marking the occasion of her passing on that day. And we'll show this video again. There we have some time, so this will be available again too. So you'll have a second chance. So just this coming Thursday. What is it? 7:30 West Coast time, 10:30 East Coast time.
Thank you, Betty. Yeah, it's in the chat as well. Thank you, Angela.
And
Well,
also,
that's all. Oh, go ahead.
just to let that Goer is going to share tonight about her father, who's one of the Mandalay, and her own experiences with Baba. It'll be very delightful.
It'd be wonderful to hear her
Just
again.
after it's 10 o'clock our time. It's kind of late, but you on the West Coast got it made.
Yes, we get our break.
Yeah, hooray. Not up at dawn.
But next lifetime, you're going to be born on the East Coast. So.
Next lifetime is India.
Next time is wherever Baba comes back.
There you go.
Yeah, whoever knows, let us know.
I'm not giving you
Let's meet there.
When you get his coordinates, let us know.
No way to know. You just gotta focus and not let anything else in. You know, that's how I think of it. It's just
I hear that.
Yeah, just imagine and keep going. Imagination is huge and inspiration.
Well, let's all say Avatar Mehera Baba. Hey. Avatar Mehera Baba. Hey. Avatar Mehera Baba. Hey. Thank you for your beloved Baba.
Thank you, Ruthie. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Ruth.
Karen,
Enjoyed
where
it.
are
Thank
you?
Everyone.
Thank you, Jeff and Larice and Cindy and of course Rainey. Rainey, you just brought me to tears, and all the people that have shared today. And thank you, all the people that listened. holding
Yeah.
that sacred space for us that's shared. That was just so important. Always in Baba's love. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruthie. I'm glad we're so important.
I was
You are, Martha.
Thank you, Ruthie.
It's true. It's true. Jai Baba.
yeah. Oh, gee, Baba.
Jai Baba.
I thought I'd share a Franny thing. When I told Mehera, when we got to India, when Franny was 7, Mehera sort of whispered to her, "Why did you call her Franny? You know, my sister had a lot of struggles in life.
Yeah.
You should have called her mayonnaise." And I said, "Well, I would never have called her mayonnaise. It's mayonnaise in the West, Mehera." And she giggled, and you know that that bell-like laughter.
Yes.
And I said, "But the thing is this, Mehera, she's not just named after your sister. She's named after both sisters, Baba's sister Franny and your sister Franny."
Yes.
And Mehera said, "Oh, that's wonderful. What a good idea."
Oh, it's so nice, Rainey, that you had those things that you were able to say back to her.
I don't know why I always I suppose when I first met her, I just say good morning. When I first met her, I say good morning. Where are you? Say good morning.
What?
Hello. Hey. Hey.
Good morning. Good morning, Rainey.
Hi, Franny.
What are you doing?
Franietta.
There she
Oh,
is.
look at that smile.
Yeah.
Hi, Franny.
I suppose when I first met Mehera, we weren't allowed to say anything. You know, we were told not to bug the Mandali and not to bother them.
Yeah.
But then I had this tragedy in 74 that I didn't know who to talk to about. And Marnie seemed so happy and I was so sad. I loved being sad. I just thought sad. When I discovered sad, it was the best thing I'd ever discovered. And so I thought the only person I can tell this terrible, terrible story to is Mehera. So I did. and that is that series of photos that some sneaky person sat in a tree and took photos of me confiding this story to Mehera.
Really beautiful, Rainey.
Yeah. And oh, she was fascinated. She just loved something, you know, rich and deep and difficult.
Exactly.
And she got into it. It was, I suppose I can tell you, are we off? Were you not recording anymore?
Well, I can turn the recording off. Just give me a sec here. I'm probably going to have to go off camera a minute also.